Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and I am so excited to be participating in this thrift flip road trip, not only because I have some awesome flips, but because of the amazing giveaway as part of this. So make sure you hear this entire video. I'm going to jump right into the first thing that I picked up at my dump, which was this very, very dirty frame. Took me 25-30 minutes to scrub it clean, but man, is it gorgeous and heavy. And so it was really well worth the trouble. Someone left it at the good table at the dump, but I'm guessing it had sat someplace in a garage or in an attic for many, many, many years. So I am taking this apart and I am trying to get, since I don't have a mat, I'm using just a piece of mat board and trying to get that shape. So I just pulled out the glass, cleaned that, and then used that as my template. So to do that, you just use your X-Acto knife and a ruler, or in this case, I'm using the glass. Score that where you want to cut that on both sides. And if you want to continue on and make an actual mat, you can do that by cutting another hole out. But I wanted my edges of what I'm framing to be organic, so I didn't want it to look like it was in a perfectly, rectangle mat. Now, my inspiration for using this beautiful silver frame was the freebie that I got this month from thegraphicsfairy.com. You can certainly run over to that website and join in, and they will send you a free printable, and there are many, many, many on their website you can search for, and they also have a premium membership if you want more. It's a great way to get free graphics, and I loved this gorgeous bucket of lavender this month. I printed that on my regular printer on rice paper and then used just a wet paintbrush, went around the edges and tore that to be the shape that I wanted it to be. And now to adhere that, I could have decoupaged that directly to this board. And I intended to, but then I remembered that I had this double-sided sticky clear tape. So I thought, you know what, I'll give this a try. So this, you just peel off, cut to the size, and it's already sticky on that side. And then once you have that, you just peel the back sticker off, and you now have basically, it's just a double-sided tape. So once I had that done on all four sides, I just peeled that back and put that right in the center of this board. I cleaned the back velvet part with a damp cloth. I put everything back together again, and that was my most simple transformation of the day, but I think that it came out absolutely beautiful. I love the gray bucket with the silver frame. I love the lavender. I think it really makes a beautiful statement piece and will make a beautiful gift or just something that I end up selling in the future. I'm not sure, but you'll have to let me know what you think about that. And now I am going to show you what I'm going to flip next. I found, believe it or not, on my good table at the dump, both of these beautiful suitcases. So stay tuned to see what I end up doing with them. And before that, let me just remind you, this is an open collaboration. This Thrift Flip Road Trip Challenge is always hosted by Sammy at the Unicorn Dust Designs, as well as the Crafting Cousins. And this month, we have a guest host, Christine, DIY Craftaholic. The playlist for everyone joining in, as well as each of the hosts' channel links, will be found in the description box, so make sure you check that out and stick around for the details of the wonderful giveaways. Now, I cleaned these suitcases really good inside and out, and while they're drying on the inside, I decided to just go ahead and take my IOD Lover of Flowers transfer booklet. I have been using this a little bit here and there on some projects, but I knew that it would be absolutely spectacular to put on these suitcases. Now, if these had been orange or brown or something, I probably would have painted them. But honestly, if they weren't going to be white or black, then blue was the next best option in my mind. So I opted to just clean them really well and keep them in the blue. Now, it does make the poem, the wording part, a little bit harder to see, especially here on camera. In person, it's a lot easier. But I think the colors of the transfers, these gorgeous flowers, really looked beautiful against this blue color. So I am just, as you've probably seen 1,000 times, just taking the tool provided, rubbing on the transfers, and, just I cut them out the way that I like them, rather than just laying down the whole page the way that IOD had it set up. You certainly can do that, and sometimes I do that, but I really do like to break them up, and just because it lasts longer and it has more of an impact, I think, if you spread it around a larger project like this. I just appreciate the beautiful colors and everything, but I don't always love the layout. I like to have my own layout. And so here I just put one of those gorgeous roses on the top near the handle, and then added some of the wording underneath it. And then, as you saw in the front, I just added a couple of the florals really off of one page. So I think I'm only using 1.5 pages, and I believe that they're about $2 a page. So this whole thing cost me probably $3 for this one, and maybe even less for the next one, or $3. Worst case, I've spent $6 on this gorgeous set of suitcases. And I love these suitcases for display. I've seen many people do things with them, and I have done a coffee table with a large trunk, and I've had some other larger pieces, but I've never found this size suitcase. So I think these just made the perfect size for a fun display, either in a home or an apartment. They don't take up too much space, but they're also awesome because they have such storage opportunities. You could leave, your toiletries in there, your extra, things that you have hanging around your house, anything that you think that you might like to just kind of hide. When I locate my rub and buff, I intend to go over the hardware, but I cannot find it, so I decided to leave it rustic and vintage as it is right here to complete this for the video, but I probably will dress that up just a little bit. So I'd love to know what you think about these, if you have anything like this to flip on your own. And I am definitely hoping that you are going to hit that subscribe button. I am so close to 2,500, and I would love it if you would. It's free, and it really does help me. So please do subscribe. I know only half of you that watch are subscribed. And now here's some information about the giveaway before I get on to my best thrift flip of this channel. Watch all of the playlist, comment on everyone's what your favorite was, and mark your calendar for May 25th, because there are 5 giveaways, not just one, but 5 giveaways. You do have to be a U.S. resident, and you do have to pay attention, because May 25th it will be announced, and you'll have to be able to respond to your original comment in order to prove that it's you. Now, this is my final and most spectacular thrift flip today. I was at my good table at the dump once again, and somebody had dropped this really adorable cabinet, and it is oak, and it had a little bit of loose top there. My husband helped me eventually get that on nice and glued, and it also had these little clips in it to clip it and everything. And so mainly I had to clean it, and it actually wasn't very dirty at all. Somebody must have just dropped it. And I took out my sander, and I took the finish off of it. Now, some things are nice in oak, and this certainly didn't look bad, but I had a really good idea, something that I was hoping to do with this. I could see that dark spot, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be a stain or if that was going to just be a knot. So I really worked at sanding that really good, and it turns out that is a darker knot, but that's fine. I can work with that. Earlier in the year, this bayberry green milk paint was at an antique store half price, so I decided to pick up a couple different bags of different colors, and I loved this bayberry green color, and I thought it would be perfect for this piece. You mix equal parts of the powder to equal parts water, you stir it good, let it stand for a couple of minutes while it thickens, and then go ahead and brush it on. And so I knew that I was probably going to have to do 2 coats for the base of this cabinet, so I mixed up the first one, and eventually I did come back and have to mix up a second batch, but there was more than enough and even left over to do 2 coats on this and probably 3 or 4 small projects. Really warm day, I just went ahead and wiped down the whole piece to make sure all of the sanding dust had been wiped away and that I had a nice smooth clean surface to work with. Now, I love milk paint. I don't use it very often. I love it on baskets, and it can be a little bit finicky on the wood surface. It's not you just can't absolutely be certain whether or not it is going to chip or not chip, if it's going to chip too much. If you leave any finish behind, it is going to chip off, and you are going to see that finish. If you wax the bits and pieces like the corners or whatever, it will chip off or can be sanded off of those areas. So you can determine a little bit about where you absolutely want it to. If you don't want it to chip, you can put a finish underneath it like a spray poly first, or some other kind of base wood conditioner to make sure that that will stick. I wanted some chipping. I didn't want a lot of chipping, so I was kind of hoping to get a little bit. And I achieved the look I was looking for the most part. It did chip a little too much on the back parts of the legs, so I did have to go back and sand that and then repaint that just to make sure, because I knew I was going to sell this piece and I really wanted it to be nice. I would love to keep it. I love this color. I just do not have any space in my home for it. And so maybe someday I will do something else in this color for my home. So the first coat goes on. This is, kind of dry wood. So the first coat goes on pretty easily and just sort of does get sucked in to the wood tone here for this particular cabinet. And then once I had that on, and it thickens up as you go, so if you have a mister bottle and you can spray as you go, or I did have to go in and add just a little bit more water to my paint as it sat. It got just a little bit too thick. And then my second coat, I watered down a little bit more. I think when you're putting a second coat on, it goes on a little bit easier when you have a little bit more water added to it. So let me know what you think about this bayberry green. I did a thrift flip recently with some Longaberger baskets. If you haven't seen that one, you are really going to like that one. I took some Longaberger baskets, and I also took a Coach bag that I had, and I made some really interesting things from them, and I did use this color in that. So make sure you check out that video. I also have 400 other videos. If you are interested in binge watching any, feel free. And so that is the 2 sides done here, and now I am moving on to the front. And I always like to start with the sides and just kind of get your the paint texture, and to feel confident in the paint strokes and that you like the color and everything on the side before I move on to the front. I really want to make sure that the front, obviously being the focal point, will be done as well as it can be. And then once I had the whole front done, I moved over and did the drawer for the top of that. Now, my husband and I had gone on a quick long weekend to Hudson, New York. and it is famous for Warren Street and antique shops that are along Warren Street. And we were fortunate enough to get a hotel room right there on Warren Street, so we were able to walk to the Hudson River, and we were able to go along all the shops. Like to spend a lot of money, and these places were fairly swank, but we did see some very interesting things. So this particular antique store that I went in had some stencils that you use to stencil on those crates. And so I picked up a couple of those, and that's what I had in mind with this green color and this particular piece. So here are those stencils, and a lot of them had the same names, but when I went through each and every one that she had, I decided that I would get these two because one had the word Paris and one had the word Rome, and I did think that in future that is definitely something that I can use again and again and again. But for the top drawer, I decided to just stencil the whole piece here, the crest, or at least the name of it. So I'm just using black chalk paint, and I am just pouncing and kind of using a circular motion to get that into this stencil without letting it leak underneath. And then once I had this finished, I did not videotape the distress sanding, but I just took out my sander and went around primarily the edges of the door, the drawer, the legs and things, just to get this wood to pop back, to make this look a little bit more vintage, because I wanted to put an antique wax over the top of this. I just added a watered down antiquing wax with a brush, with a rag, and then just wiped it right off. And then this will protect the chalk paint and the stencil paint on there, as well as the wood itself. It will give that vintage feel and definitely protect this for years to come. And then it was time to move on to the top. And again, I thought I would just use that same watered down wax. If I straight up used the antique wax out of the bottle, it would be probably just slightly darker than I was going for. So I started with it being watered down, wiped that on, wiped that off, and then ended up doing 2 coats of that wax to hide the darker knot a little bit, to get that more uniform in color, protect that wood top. And then once I am completely finished, I do take a spray poly and I spray poly the entire piece, because after it's had time to cure a week or so in with the wax, I decided, since I'm going to sell this piece, I do want to make sure that it has a really good finish on it, and that none of the chalked paint or the milk paint would be flaking off. Let me know what you think about the transformation of this probably 70s style cabinet that was in oak to this very beautiful vintage green. And this cabinet did sell probably within 2 weeks, as I figured that it would. Don't forget to check out the playlist in the description box. I would love it if you not only comment, and you do have to comment to be added into the giveaway, but that if you would also subscribe, that would really help me out. I appreciate that, and I will see you in the next one. Stay tuned.